Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. The Chinese threat to India manifests itself in multiple ways, from military on the borders to domestic, with a lot of interference within the Indian society. What we need to understand here is how is India countering the Chinese threat. For that, this afternoon on a Sunday, I have with me Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar. Sir, good afternoon.
Hi,
We
good
need
afternoon. How are
to
you?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I'm very well.
yeah. Chinese threat. Yeah. The Chinese threat, as we discussed earlier, is a multi-domain threat,
Hmm.
right? So we should never forget that multi-domain business. And how to counter that is, of course, the next issue. We need to consciously do it, right? And we need to systematically go about the whole affair. Otherwise, they'll walk all over us. And actually, if you go back 2 years back, in, 2020 or so, 1920, they were walking all over us.
Mhm.
At that point of time, we thought, how do you stem the tide? Really speaking, the first stemming of the tide came when we overturned tables on them on Kailash Range, right? And then the tide has turned. Then belief has come. We banned apps. We've done a lot of things which you've done. If you actually go back into history and see, when I say history, the recent past, and see what all you have done, is actually a summary of how to counter the Chinese threat. But I think but then things have changed from that time to now. India has changed, so has China. India has gone stronger, China has gone weaker. Let's be very clear. There's no doubt about it. I'll use this word comprehensive national strength,
Okay.
right? Yeah, right. There it is. Right. While their comprehensive national strength might still be higher, but it is not something which you should get worried about anymore.
It's not overpowering.
Yeah, it's not overpowering. In fact, it is vulnerable. That their thing is vulnerable. Okay. So let's discuss it. You lead on. In fact,
So we leave the military right to the last because that is the major threat. We leave it right to the last and kind of discuss it. But the first one, as I want to discuss, is societal interference. The main thing is there three warfare strategies. A lot of us actually find ourselves in the middle of a narrative battle all the time. We see stuff happening with BBC, this, that, and the other. There's something or the other, some fire or the other, which is uh, on within the country. So that seems to be, I don't know if it's part of it, but it seems to be quite the symptom of it.
well, let me put it in perspective in a different manner. The main threat is not military. The main threat is what we're talking of. Because this is all pervasive and 24 by 7 and 365 days in a year. Whereas the military threat only comes up, periodically if there's something on the IB or wherever.
And locally,
Local, so the three warfare strategy of their public disinformation, influence operations, and propaganda. That is something which we have to really counter, and that is something which we have to take care of, right? So if you look at the whole thing, look, let me. We spoke of something called a lying index some time back, right? They'll tell you something and something else happens, and if you put the numbers, you have a lying index. They use this lying index very well in their strategy and in their psychological warfare and all that, and they'll use all kinds of media. So the first thing is we should know that whatever is coming from China is fake by at least 50%. Okay, discount value लगाओ उस पे. Okay, the moment you know it's fake and then you this thing, then half the effect is gone. So one has to convince people that it is fake. And the second thing is you have to constantly, you know, put across your point of view. Where do you stand? Okay, It's not as if you are doing a counter propaganda as much as using the right time to trigger something to discredit the Chinese
Hmm.
influence. Okay, so that is as far as the that building public opinion and all that is concerned. The second thing in this is that they use your media well. They buy media, okay, and they use social media well. They are like TikTok and all those. Of course, TikTok has been banned. That you just know, right? All your gaming apps and Chinese apps. That is a very powerful way of gaining influence on you or projecting their influence on you. Okay, so that is something which you need to take care. And then, of course, the mainstream media and the effect on that.
Hmm.
The third important thing, which I think we should be very clear about, is uh, how shall I put it? Your, there are a lot of people in India who are who lean towards communism
Yeah.
and who are enamored by China. Now, how do you those fellows even when you talk of them when you talk to these fellows about China and what it's doing and all that, they justify Chinese actions. So how do you marginalize them? So a combination of these three, four is what you do to counter uh, the three warfare strategy and defensively. Over and above this, you have to counter their strategy with your own. Okay. So this is how we need to tackle this three warfare strategy business.
The I think you mentioned something very interesting, that they use our media, and the question that comes across, and just want to extend this topic a little bit, because this is the biggest threat. They want to break the society from within, and that's what it is. So when they use our media, it is not a Chinese person sitting there doling
No,
out
no, no. So
this
it is
thing.
by second-hand methods.
It
No,
is the
I'll tell
guy,
you.
a guy looks like me, sitting there and doing that. So
See, you see it like this. Let me put it across to you. I distinctly remember there was this guy who was a professor, you know, Chinese expert. So he had been to China, and he came back and he appeared with me in a couple of webinars, especially at the height of Eastern Ladakh episode and a little after that. So I found that he was talking the same thing in every webinar, and he'll use four Chinese words, and he'll talk of what the Chinese structure is, how strong it is. Okay, and there's another army guy who I think virtually is a spokesman for China here. I'm forgetting
hmm,
his name. Okay, ex-army chap, not army guy.
I'm
Army
sure,
guys don't do it. Huh?
I'm sure a lot of people in the audience will just write his name.
Okay. Oh, the point is, all these chaps put together, these voices propagate the Chinese line
Yeah, within.
and they denigrate your line. See, one thing is their line is propagated. Other thing is your line is denigrated. Your
Hmm.
thought process. Arey, India mein kya hai? We are fools. Already lost. You can't stand up to China. So they're
Our
cutting you
army is
deep.
this, our air force is this, our
अरे
navy.
तो इसमें कोई थिएटराइजेशन नहीं है, वो नहीं है। उनको देखो, वो एआई लेके आए हैं। एआई जो ब्लडी हेल, एआई इज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आर्टिफिशियल है। It's not pure intelligence. Even the chat GPT, if you interacted with it, gives you a lot of wrong answers.
Sir, it's
Okay,
standard answers,
that's okay. Whatever. The
our
fact
friend.
is that right. So you have such chaps, right? And then there's this opposition to the government. Uh, some opposition is wise. I have no problem. But there is some opposition who politically who find comfort in aligning with China, or at least momentarily aligning with Chinese thoughts for their short-term political gains. Okay, so all these things put together is what you have to arrest, right?
The
So. Yeah,
You brought out something very interesting, sir. That it's a guy looking like us with proper
yeah,
credentials and stuff like that. Now,
yeah, yeah.
here is my a little bit of an argument to this sake. A lot of China experts, and with respect to all of them, I'm not saying this blanketly, but this is obviously at a certain few who I've noticed this particular tendency, especially the people who are able to read Mandarin,
They'll
who
talk
are able to,
Mandarin. Hmm.
yeah, they're able to basically understand the nuances of the year of the rabbit and whatever. The issue that I see with them is that because they read Mandarin, because the amount of reading that they do in Mandarin, sometimes I feel that their narrative kind of gets intertwined within the narrative of China. And
देख ऐसा
you
है कि
mentioned
वो
your visits
या,
to China as well, sir.
हाँ वो पेड विजिट्स होते हैं.
So this is also
Yeah, yeah.
part of the
Look,
game.
I'm paid visits and all I know because I got a thing on the email about 2 3 years back. Okay, you come attend this conference, we'll pay you. You just have to say your ticket, everything will be done. All that. I said, यार मेरा बाप छोड़ो उसको, right? So I mean, I'm very clear. If you go get wine, dine there, and um, all that, naturally you'll sing that tune, or you'll talk what is good about it, and because that's what is आपको पट्टी पढ़ा दिया कि भाई हम इतने बड़े हैं.
Been shown to you.
Yeah, they'll show some videos, some this, some that, and they'll show you, take you to 3 flyovers, and they'll call it 4 flyovers. Okay. And they'll say it's 5 strategies. उनको वो होता है ना, थ्री, वो क्या, थ्री वॉरफेयर, फोर,
हाँ, वो बंदा आके
फोर.
बोलेगा यार अभी तो 3 नहीं समझ में आ रहा था, ये तो 5 बात कर रहे हैं.
Also,
Chinese
ऐसे
की
confuse
50
कर,
years ahead.
they confuse the hell out of you, and you come back like an idiot, and you parrot their mouth, whatever they say. Mm.
That is there, but also seen a lot of them who've gone there and seen through their SHIT
Yeah,
and
there are. Look, it's not as if it's that, but we're not denigrating all these fellows. We're only
yeah,
saying how to stop the Chinese from behaving the way they are. That's about
fair
all.
enough.
Yeah.
The next part of the discussion, and this is to the all the viewers and audience. I just like to say, of course, you guys might think yeah, it's as easy as what General Saab and Adi is saying. Ki yaar, itna easy hai, मुझको पता है कौन है. Today's narrative will have to have a certain effort from us, and sir, correct me if I'm wrong, from the consumer of the narrative to do a bit of a fact check.
Yeah. You see, most of us Indians tend to believe what these fellows are narrating to us.
Yeah,
It's all about building a narrative. The narrative is China is great, so you believe China is great. Oh, let me give you a personal example. Mm, I've started this thing on peek into everyday China. Okay, so I read some article, some giving a comment. So we did not know all this. What you're putting out in your channel. We always felt China was great. So if
China is
China,
great.
no,
There's
it's
nothing wrong
okay.
with
So
it, but
no, no. What I'm trying to say is that the common man doesn't understand. That's the point, right? You have to convince people with facts and figures, which we have not been able to do. So you have to put in a regime which puts a counter narrative, and secondly, it debases the Chinese narrative. When I say debase, it's not abusive.
no,
You counter it with facts and figures.
facts and figures. I mean, what has been shown to us is these, especially I blame a lot to this on the Western media because you have these journalists going across. Today is a globalized world, so you're consuming narratives and stuff from all over the place.
Yeah, yeah, that's there's no doubt. I wish I had this thing. There's a beautiful article which says that Chinese chaps have bought America free of cost. Okay, and the Chinese fell hook, line, and sinker to what the carrots which China dangled. Not the Chinese, the American.
Hmm.
Okay, Hook, line, and sinker to what the Chinese dangled, and then now they're regretting. Okay,
Is it?
so we have to take steps internally to ensure that their influence doesn't affect us, and we give them a huge discount, and start believing in yourself. I mean, I think that's most important, because what they are doing to you is erode your self belief.
Yeah.
See, again, I'll give you an example. When the Kailash range operations and all had not taken place, the belief was that China will never go back and nothing will happen. But we did the Kailash range, and they went back, and they retreated 9 kilometers along the Pangong Tso Lake. So सब कुछ होता है, ठीक है ना? You just have to have belief that you can do it. Yeah, let's move on to another subject other than this.
No, military will kind of keep it at the bottom,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, that's okay.
Now, the biggest counter that a lot of people get pissed off about, I think, every month end when the report comes in, is the trade part of it.
Yeah, I understand what you're getting. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I've covered it in this thing where I've kind of tried to make people understand that, listen, this trade is a lot to do with our own requirements rather than anything else. And if you abruptly cut it off, you're going to hurt us first. More than what you'll hurt China, you'll
Yeah,
hurt
yeah,
our own
you'll hurt
industry.
us.
So now see, this is again a part of the narrative that is being used, that देखो यार तुम झगड़ा तो करते रहते हो, what the hell, but you're buying so much from China as well. Your trade deficit is this and that and the other. How do you counter that particular narrative? Because at the end of it, one thing that I'm realizing in the battle with China is military, of course, but the rest of the battle is just pure narrative, sir.
See, we for whatever reason, our government has not clarified that, say, it takes primary materials from China and makes it into developed thing, especially
Yeah,
the pharma sector.
yeah.
Okay, so we have not been able to put this out across. If you buy, say, $10 million worth of items from them, you're going to sell it at $20 million
Hmm.
after the
Value
customs,
add.
value added. So that is not being put across to anyone. So in the absence of this knowledge, right, people will say, why are you importing from China? Okay, at the end of the day, we are still in a free market. Okay, and where you, if you can get something cheap from there without strings, take it. And especially when you get things cheap, because today that fellow will sell cheaper.
Hmm.
Even if he's to go at loss, he'll sell cheaper, because if he doesn't, his whole stove system will go for a toss. Right? So you have to be clear. You have to tell, okay, this is what, but there are certain things which you can stop, and you have to find alternatives for that.
Yeah, yeah. Consumer products, absolutely.
Yeah, consumer products, you find an alternative and stop him.
And
It's not.
hospitality, by the way, is the biggest this thing, because hospitality industry buys cutlery, crockery,
Yeah,
glassware.
all that. Why didn't you do it here?
Yeah,
Why didn't you
indeed.
do it here? Okay, you can make China in India also. I mean, when you say
Bone
glazed,
China.
yeah, bone China, you can make it here. You can make cutlery here. I remember when, in our earlier days, there was this thing, stainless steel called Kishko.
Kishko.
Kishko was the prime thing which we used to use in all our messes.
Yeah.
What happened to it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's still there or not. But well, we have Indian alternatives, and they're good alternatives. You just have to, if you don't allow these things coming from China, these things, whatever it is with you will go up, will be sold, and will come up. So you have to be very clear as to, people say, no, no, you're getting it cheap. So what if you're getting it cheap? Don't make it cheap, and make your product cheap. Okay. So this is there. In any case, in a few years, when their population starts shrinking, their cost will automatically go up. It's just around the corner, maybe another 2 3 years. Right. So if you hold the line till then, you are better off.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a propagandist, but I was listening to someone on Joe Rogan's podcast today morning who very blatantly. He's connected to the CIA and all that stuff. He said Chinese structure is 10 years because of the way their population, and he used population as an example. He did not talk about military, he did not talk about anything else. He said the way that the population is going to take them is 10 years is all they've got to kind of restructure themselves, beyond which it is irreparable. It will
Yeah.
not happen.
No, no,
And
that's a fact.
he also went on to say that this 2 years, 3 years of the pandemic is not 2 years, 3 years in Chinese time. It is almost 5 to 6 years in Chinese time. So he's saying the Chinese actually have just 3 to 4 years to go
No,
forward.
discussed this. They have a 5 year window to do anything they want, whether they want to fight with India, become a superpower, whatever it is. After that,
After that, they're done.
forget it. Done. And look at it conversely. You have to hold them off for the next 5 to 10 years. After that, you don't need to.
Indeed. So the third point, and before we come to the military, what I want to ask you is about. Uh, See, we can control ourselves. We can control probably I won't say control. Control is the wrong word. Let me just wipe that out. We could counter the Chinese narrative within India. People like you and a little bit on my end as well, within Dev Talks, your channel, a lot of people, right? General Narayan. So many of us are trying to put this right word out. Uh, and I'm not trying to be a little arrogant here, but pure China analysis is basically just us guys, three, four, five
Yeah,
of
I
us
understand.
who are continuously on a weekly basis analyzing what's happening
Yeah,
within
yeah.
China and stuff like that. There are people who write about it. There's no question about it. There are people who are doing structured analysis, but I'm talking about public analysis where
Yeah, I understand.
we are talking to the people and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there's a difference. Now, the point being that there is a whole Chinese driven structure which has been created within the country, sir. There is, I
Yeah.
mean, of course, as I said, people, traders who say, yaar, sasta hai, le lete hain.
Hey, you have to break that.
Haan.
You have to
So,
break that. And the
how
government
does
has enough methods.
the government has enough methods, sir, there, but I am talking about as a society. What can people, all the about more than 100 people watching us right now, two, three, four, 5,000 people that will watch this show later on,
Don't buy
how does
Chinese.
the society do it,
Simple. Look, as far as an individual is concerned, you shun Chinese, end of story. To the extent possible. Anything made in China, don't buy. Don't believe. And spread it. But I think the bigger issue is how do you stem it at the
yeah,
government level?
that of course.
Mm.
Coming
Okay.
to that, sir, now the government, of course, has done quite a bit. On the ground, there's a lot which is happening, and let's just talk about recent stuff. Of course, there's a lot of geopolitical events where India is aligning here, there. You've got these India-Japan exercises. You're selling arms to the Philippines, and this and that. I don't want to get into that. I want to talk about domestic Indian stuff. We spoke about, the latest announcement that came out was the increase in the border force. You've got the tunnels, which is going to another, all-weather tunnel, which is going to come up, give us a little more. A lot of new equipment going onto the border with regards to security and stuff like that. That is, of course, a military threat and the Atmanirbharta game, which is coming across. Is that before we get onto the military, is that the Atmanirbharta? Is it a counter to the Chinese threat within India, sir?
Look, I'll put it this way. It is not. Let's look at a major trend line.
Sir,
Because that will tell you where you have to go, and we're going in that direction approximately. The major trend line is people want to decouple and relocate out of China.
G.
China is being not is being denied technologies, right? So if they're in a technology denial regime without saying so, and if factories want to come out of China, they are coming majorly hereafter. Okay, jitna Bangladesh, yeah, they want to go to Vietnam and all, they've gone. They have to come to India. So the differential will start happening automatically. Already, Apple has said that they'll produce 50% iPhones here. Okay, Dell has packed up from China, and Samsung has set up shop here. Slowly, that will improve. That will increase, right? The moment that starts increasing, okay, automatically you will see. Okay, there's another knockdown effect. See, Air India, I said they'll buy some 400 plus planes,
Indigo.
Indigo, right? Whatever. The point is, if you're going to have so many aircraft in India, it's only sensible that there's a MRO base in India. If there's a MRO base in India somewhere, right? Not only planes from within India, but in this region will come here, which are otherwise going to China. So the point is that if you, these initiatives will draw people to India
Mm,
and
mm,
draw
mm.
people away from China. Okay, you have to make these alternatives available, and Atmanirbharta is only a vehicle to make this happen, right? So if the fundamental precept and policy is clear, then I think a lot of other things just follow.
I think that's a very interesting perspective. I mean, for the lack of a better word, you kind of try to scratch it the other way around, but it's
Yeah,
a little more effective to be put across like that. Bringing to the most important thing where you and I started our relationship, sir, about two odd years ago, the military threat to India, where, I think again, we were the first few people to come out with our faces shown and said, listen, yeah, don't get worried. Our pause is there. We will, सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा. Which is what I want to ask you, sir. Now, the military threat will be a frustrated military threat. There are reports within China where it is now said that Xi Jinping is beyond the advice of a rationality. He's basically isolated himself in a place where he's giving these instructions to his own this thing, and that's what a dictator kind of thing does.
yeah,
How far do you think this irrational, and General Ryan uses a very interesting, megalomaniac, he calls him, this irrational megalomaniac will be able to pose a military threat to India? And I'm not talking about all out war because you and I both know that's damn
right.
difficult. But
I get you, get what you're saying. There are two ways of looking at it. In fact, I wouldn't say there are two ways. There are two levels of this threat. First is the non-conflict military threat, the gray zone activities, which don't lead you to conflict but trouble you daily. A ship coming to Sri
mm,
Lanka,
mm,
some patrolling and some firing across the border, demonstration videos coming out,
exercise.
capability, yeah, exercises, all that. The second is the conflict-based threat. It could be a fist fight like it happened in Yangtze and
Ji.
upwards. So how do you prepare against that? That's the first thing. Uh, there are again two ways. One is you block them in your region. Okay. If the Yuan Wang Fai next time comes into Indian Ocean, just send a ship and start tailing it. और कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. उसको नजर में रखो.
भाग
Oh, he'll
जाएगा.
get irritated. Okay. You just start telling him, say, 30 kilometers away, 40 kilometers away, you're on his radar, and he is constantly aware that you're telling him. So he'll do something irrational. So you can do these preventive things quite regularly. The second is if this fellow comes here, you send do something in South China Sea. So it could be a pro quid quo, right? The other is you expose the what shall I say, the propaganda content and all this, and the reality. So all these things are something which you can do, and you must do, right? These are
Non-military.
non-conflict, non. As far as no, these are military, but
Non-kinetic.
non-conflict, non-kinetic, non-conflict.
Okay.
The main thing which militarily, you need to have enough strength to pose non-contact deterrence first. First and foremost, they should know you have non-contact deterrence. That has to go heavily on your aircraft and missiles, right? And that has to be clubbed heavily with electronic surveillance. And that electronic surveillance could be aerial, ground-based, satellite-based. So space based, aerial based, ground based. So right. A combination of non contact deterrence with missiles and aircraft and surveillance will put that fellow on the back foot. And then you have the conventional deterrence with your fighting ability. And then if that fellow wants to know what it is, you give release a few videos, and you can also go into the bluffing mode like what they do. Ye bana liya, wo bana liya. I mean, you don't have to bluff, but you can definitely do something.
Would you agree? Yangtze video was a good example.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you highlight your where you this thing. Now, and of course, you have to keep a vigilance and ensure that if when Yangtze happens, you hammer them once again, and that kind. So there's a combination of things you can do: kinetic, non-kinetic, military, non-military. For example, you you militarize or rather build infrastructure and capability development in the Andaman Nicobar Islands.
Hmm.
That's a problem for them. That's a major problem for them.
They call it what? The steel cage or something, iron cage or something.
Yeah. So it's a major problem for them. Okay. Then you can also, get Sri Lanka to say no military ship to come here, and make sure that Sri Lanka tells, for that matter, I'm not talking of Sri Lanka, I'm talking of Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Maldives, Bhutan, not Bhutan, say Nepal, all these. So they can start towing a line which you want them to tow. Okay. So there are a lot of things to be done. Actually, what I've covered is hardly anything. A nation like India will have a lot of levers which you can pull or push so that you can counter China. You could even counter China in London. Yeah. You could
Probably
counter
are. Yeah.
China in UN. Okay. So there are a lot of places where you can counter, and that effect will be military in nature. See, another way is like that fellow shows you all funny videos. Yeah, like you also show international cooperation, how people talk about you. Yeah, reverse the flow. Why should you be defensive always? Part of our problem in India is that we are too defensive. So I have no doubt in my mind that there's a lot for us. We have not played it out.
Hmm. People don't know it. It doesn't get played
We
out
don't
in
know.
public, at least.
It doesn't. Yeah, and they should know. They should know that how serious we are in retributing in case they do some mischief. Okay, so you can do a lot to deter China. You can call Dalai Lama and tell him to go to Arunachal Pradesh.
He did, right?
What? No, no, he did. They go two, three times more.
No,
Right. So
that
all the
irritation, actually, honestly telling you, sorry to interject, sir, but these irritating little things for the Chinese, of course, for us is good fun. I think India started doing that because his visit to Leh, his
yeah,
visit to Arunachal, you got the Tibetan Buddhist to, sorry, Taiwanese Buddhist to come and meet him. So
yeah,
you've
I
been
have no
doing these
doubt.
kind of
See,
things. Yeah.
so when you spoke of Buddhists, you have Sarnath here, you have
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
here, na? Gaya, Bodh Gaya का tree भी है वहाँ.
Hmm.
So why don't we use that? See, as far as how to counter China, I think the sky is the limit. But most important, what you need is the intent to do it, a organization to do it, a plan to do it, and
True.
this plan has to be seamless across all domains. See, for again, other day I gave out in the speak into everyday China. Look, since we're talking of China, and all our users are, you know, China people who are interested in China, have a look at that peak of everyday China, because that's on Gunner Short channel. It gives you, because in that I've analyzed property, analyzed international headwinds, I've analyzed the Africa part of the story, how China. So there are a lot of places where China has showed its hand, and it is shaky. So that's where it's an opening for you. You
Hmm.
replace China there. Okay. So there are a lot of opportunities which are opening up. Like the way you utilize the opening you got in Sri Lanka. Okay. Now Sri Lanka will find it very difficult to get back to China the way it used to
Mhm.
earlier.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that
You-
everyone knows.
You've also gotten into South China Sea for that matter, Philippines,
Yeah,
Vietnam, Malaysia.
you have all these chaps in your pocket. I won't say
Yeah.
pocket, but they're
They're dealing with you. Defense cooperation is there, sir.
Taiwan. Do
Japan.
something with Taiwan. Yeah, do something with Taiwan. Do something with Japan, which we are doing. Again, we are doing this Indo-Japanese exercise. So why don't you do a military exercise with Taiwan notionally? Okay, why don't you let him come and do a few one officer at least come and do a few courses here? So there is a lot we can do. Okay, and these Chinese chaps will go up in smoke if you do it.
And it's not that we don't, sir. You just name some examples of what we are doing.
Yeah,
And there's an interesting video that came out the other day where it was some standoff probably happened in 2020 2021 range. Two chaps were talking to each other. Both of them were talking to each other in Tibetan. One was holding the Indian flag, one was
and the
holding
other
the
chap in
Chinese.
the China. Yeah, it
And
happens.
this guy is telling that chap, "Teko sharam nahi aati?"
Nah. Yeah. See, I agree with you, but there are so many things you can do actually. There's so many things you can do um, to put China completely off, right? I mean, like I said, uh, we have had very good equation with the African nations, and wherever China is having problems, you should go and put your foot in.
Yeah, like they do where we have problems.
Yeah, we have problems. Okay, right? So there's no this thing that you can do a lot.
Indeed.
Yeah. So something else came to my mind. It just slipped as we were talking.
We'll
But if
probably
it
get to
comes
it, sir.
back, no, if I get back, I'll talk about it.
Sir, just the last
Right?
thing I want to take, and I want to take 2 minutes in that. Guys, please, there's quite a bit of comments. Please hashtag it ask so that I know which one. Because you guys are also having a discussion of some very interesting stuff they're talking about. So I'll bring that out during the questions as well. My last question to you is that, there is a lot that we do within India which the world recognizes. So I was speaking to Cleo Pascal last week and I had a fantastic interview with her.
Yeah, that's the point. Wait, now that you triggered it back, this TikTok.
I was getting to that
Uh,
exactly.
uh, I read an article in Foreign Affairs which spoke of TikTok and all that. This article was about a month or two back. It says, look, India has done the right thing by banning TikTok. It has had the vision to do so.
Yeah.
It has had the courage to do so. Okay, and we in USA are not doing it. In USA, some governments have some states have banned it, and the government of USA has banned it for official use, especially through the congressional route.
Yeah, federal employees.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so it's only partial. It's not universal. This guy has written. He says, "What are you chaps doing? You look at this India. They just said get lost. It has had its effect. You
Alibaba
banned
is back.
apps. Yeah, you banned apps. There's a reaction.
Yeah.
Yesterday I put this out in Peek into Everyday China. In fact, I would request all of you to go have a look at yesterday's thing, where I said, look, the theme of that is India charging. So when you say India charging, that means you're, you know, moving ahead, right? They are worried. It's not as if see, another major way of putting China off is, have deals with Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, USA. They're so worried about that US India tech deal you cannot imagine. Oh, they talk of semiconductors, you're talking of AI, they got a pretty Pakistani chap to write about this.
Yeah.
If India
Yes, sir.
if India increases its AI, there will be a nuclear problem.
Yeah.
So this is what I keep saying. Uh, today they are worried. Tomorrow they should be scared,
Petrified.
petrified. You don't have to talk much. Just do what you have to do. Right? I think we should start taking
Yeah, get
questions.
into the questions. I mean, that's what she said. You're the only country that has banned some 350 apps.
Yeah.
The world has
No
not
one
been
else
able to
has done.
support a single one.
Uh,
From your country, Alibaba, you guys have packed up and told him, "Bhag jai yahan se."
get out.
He's basically had to sell all his bloody stakeholding
Yeah,
to
yeah.
some
Even
other.
Paytm yesterday only that came out. Paytm maybe he sold his share and
Yeah,
all.
he's said out, get out from here. He says you're the only country that is internally removing the Chinese corporate influence within you,
Yeah,
and the world should learn from India. So we kind of, as Indians, we sell ourselves short certain times, sir.
yeah. I think so. I think that's what I've been. That look. That is my whole story. That's my whole story, and that is why, in fact, if you remember 2 years back when I started, I was probably the only guy who was saying that China will get kicked out before they got kicked out. I was the only guy who was saying that China will not come back. And on this very channel, we discussed this. People said, "Oh, they'll come back. We'll face three fronts, four fronts, 10 fronts." Today, China is facing five fronts. I mean,
Minimum.
if you look at it, China has a major problem.
Yeah.
China is facing a problem front against India and Tibet. It is facing a front against Taiwan, right, with USA. And that South China Sea, the Asian nations have started nibbling in. They know that they'll
Vietnam.
start. Vietnam, they started. And then there's a major front opening up with Japan. You disaggregate things, things will come in thing. And you must remember the Chinese are scared to their bones about Japan.
Absolutely.
They have very bad memories of Japan. Okay, so a lot is happening. It's not as if a lot is not happening. It's just that we are uh, many times we don't see this in the overview,
I mean,
right?
our foreign minister is in Fiji. Our prime minister is going to
Yeah,
PNG, Papua New Guinea, sorry,
yeah,
which is in the Indo-Pacific, so-called
yeah,
Chinese domain.
yeah.
So we are also doing quite a bit of things. ऐसी बात नहीं है.
Yeah. Chalo, let's ask. Get
Thank you,
to
sir, for
yeah,
the super sticker. Don't give up of gun short, General. We are with you.
yeah, yeah. We don't. I'll not. And I don't need super stickers also for that. Right? Yeah.
Right. Would China take advantage of Pakistan's
नहीं नहीं
situation and try to
वही
capture
वही ये देख अजय ये सब पुराना कहानी है
Gaya?
don't even think of all this don't even dream of all this China is nowhere near doing all that
Normally, I don't get into politics, sir, but I want to take this question up on the matter of principle, not on the matter of Indian politics. There is a lot of this. We know about this, but we keep hammering it because we know about it. There are 70 other people in India who Xi Jinping is our boss.
see
So
you get that that you must understand I mean I understand what he's talking of he's talking of the time when Congress party signed a MOU I completely understand that but that was in a different era what's the use of that MOU is there's no point beating a dead horse with a stick.
yeah,
That's a dead horse. How do you look ahead? Okay. How do you look ahead? And please remember, I mean, this is my supplication to all of you. I've lived through India and I've seen many prime ministers come and go, many political parties come and go. No one is permanent, and no party's star will be always up. Today, there's one party up there, good, we support it. Tomorrow, if another party comes, we still support it. Because once that party is in power there, he is the one who's running India. And we are the ones who have to help that party in power run India. It doesn't matter which party. You're talking to a guy who's seen Jawaharlal Nehru in flesh and blood, and Indira Gandhi in flesh and blood, PV Narasimha Rao in flesh and blood, Manmohan Singh ji in flesh and blood, and in fact Prime Minister Modi also in flesh and blood, and Rajiv Gandhi, और कौन है, Chandrasekhar. All these people I've
Gujral,
seen in
Chandrasekhar.
Gujarat. I've not met, but all these people have met one to one. Because when we saw Jawaharlal Nehru's Pandit ji, I was a baby, but I still remember. So what I'm trying to put across to this thing is, don't get carried away by a political party. Political parties keep coming and going. India is more important,
Yeah, yeah, and this
and
one has done something wrong, they'll pay for it.
they'll pay for it, right? And again, we have to look at it at that point of time where we were. Where were we? See, many people don't understand this, but let me put it in perspective. And it's important for you people to understand it. In the 80s and 90s, who was our main problem? Pakistan. Every day there was some terrorist attack on us. Some atrocity was going on. There was some hijack, parliament building, some temple. Everything was going. Okay. At that time, what did you do? You strategically you said, I don't want to face two enemies. So you made peace with with China.
I know.
Okay, and you moved troops from that front to the western front to handle Pakistan. We did that during what's that?
Kargil.
Op Vijay also. Op Vijay, my own personal, my unit, we were in the east. We were pulled out from there and pushed into trains and sent overnight into Op Vijay. So, don't, you have to say, don't think for one moment also that what happened was wrong. Everything which happens has a reason. Okay, and the Congress party was not a set of fools. I mean, I don't support any party, but you must view it logically. Okay, so it was our, and this is something, let me tell you, it was something told and explained to us in more military terms. I can't talk about that here. In very military terms by a very, very senior officer of the Indian Army.
And apart from that, sir, as we both agree to the factor that if there is something wrong in it, it'll come out and they'll pay for it.
Well, no, that's a different
Khatam
story.
kahani.
But the point is, at that point of time, are right. We remember Vajpayee ji signed a memorandum of understanding with China with the aim of promoting friendship. When was this? 2003?
Four.
3, 4. Okay. Where we recognized Tibet. Till then, we had not recognized Tibet.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you say he's wrong? He might be wrong. But why did he do it? Because at that point of time, it was beneficial for us to do all that. Today, it is not. Okay.
Times have
Today,
changed.
times
Mm.
have changed. Today, you have the scope to rescind that agreement because they have rescinded, I haven't said they have violated all MOUs. So you say, I am not interested in your MOU anymore. You can say that, but you're still not saying it. We are not still, India is still not saying that we don't recognize
You don't
Tibet.
want to get carried on. You've got your own
So
strategy which you're
yeah,
following.
so that's what that's the point. The point is one shouldn't get too excited politically about these things. Think cool. We have to view things dispassionately.
I always say this very clearly that the whole tamasha of Indian politics, which is, I mean, you look at any country in the world, the domestic politics, except for America, which is crazy, is not as crazy as India, is because every day there's an issue created so that we Indians keep bloody focusing on that
See,
rather than anything else.
yeah, that's the next thing is that the I mean, when you actually compare what's happening elsewhere, I think our government, our opposition, or structure, or judiciary, or law, everything is far, far, far better than many. Okay, we have to be, we have to thank those people who have brought us to this, rather than just keep cursing behind. Everyone commits mistakes. Whatever mistakes are being committed today will surface after 5, 10 years. In life, a solution and problem are two opposite sides of a wheel. When you have a solution, the next problem is going to come. When you solve that problem, you give a solution to that problem, it will beget another. A solution begets a problem, and a problem begets a solution.
Exactly. There were loads of things, and
Yeah.
which
So I mean, I've taken this time because some people do get carried away, right?
honestly, sir, my opinion is do whatever you feel like. Don't lose the bigger picture.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Chalo,
Don't lose
next.
the bigger picture. You can get stuck with this thing, and yeah, there might be links. We know that there are anti-national elements
Yeah, yeah.
within every bloody domain of this country. That's how it is. And if somebody is trying to tell me that there are no anti-Chinese elements within China,
Yeah.
seriously, all the news leaks that happen from China, who do you think is doing that?
Don't we
So
talk of
every
protests in
country,
China?
yeah,
So there are problems, Don't think. Yeah, let's move ahead. Move ahead.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's there everywhere. There are Jaichans in every every place. That's fine. That's okay. General, I was reading about average labor wages in China that are 10 times of India. Even Vietnam has twice the average labor wages than of India. Our manufacturing market was surrendered before China.
Look, it's not so. If the wage labor is so costly, 10 times that of China, then you should be able to produce at that much cheaper rates. Okay, it is this wage differential which is going to hurt them as they go along. Labor is getting costlier in China. You see, what happens is if the labor becomes costly, it's not skilled, it's not what X, Y, Z, the productivity goes down. If your productivity goes down, your GDP goes down. I mean, it's not that as if our productivity is very high, but today you have the scope to push your productivity up, and our aim should be to push our productivity up, right? So that's a whole different game. But the point is, uh, we have our own structural problems. We have to look at it uh, holistically and with a little renewed thought for us to move. But having said that, you see, many of you have not lived through the 90s or 80s or the 80s or the 70s. When transformation happens, democratic societies automatically adjust to these factors. I've seen Gurgaon grow up from a village which had no roads to now all skyscrapers. Okay, transformation. When the transformation happens, things automatically adjust. So don't worry. Yeah,
I'm just kind of wrapping that head. Sorry, it took me a second to. Sometimes, you just take a little time to wrap it up.
yeah, yeah. I understand.
uh, Consumer electronics can be manufactured by the but government must help in MSMEs in such sectors. Industry must be given incentive to scale the manufacturing. Your view?
Yeah, I think there are. If you look at the PLI scheme, which is there, there are, and I think there's a genuine. If you saw the budget, also there are a lot of thing for this. What Raghunandan is saying,
Yeah, yeah.
trust on MSMEs, everything. Like I told you, if you have to set up a MRO, okay, with the kind of planes you're buying and the kind of aircraft you're manufacturing and the kind of fighter aircraft you're manufacturing, MSMEs need a lift. It's being given, but it'll take time. I mean, it's our right to say, look, this is wrong, that is wrong. We can talk, but everything needs time.
Something we
Okay,
didn't do for 60 years. How can it just happen like
right.
that?
And again, this comes with my previous answer. It takes time.
Yeah.
What is happening today is a continual of a process which started long back. This process
Actually,
didn't start today.
you brought about a very interesting point, sir. If you over industrialize like the way Chinese have done,
There'll be a problem. There's a major problem in that.
you have to go by the pace.
As it is, we are having problems. Look, again, I can only give you 2 points, see the difference between the two so that you can. I live in a place in Chennai where people in the evening were told, and in fact, I was speaking to my neighbor. The people in the evening were told, look, if you're going out, come back before lights out. Before the street lights come on, you should be inside the house. It's not safe. Quiet. Absolutely. No, why you will, at night you could not hear a vehicle passing. Today I can't. I'm waiting for that moment when I don't hear traffic or pa pa po po in my house. And this house was built when I was born, 1956. Okay, we were in a nice little suburb of Chennai then. Today we are in the very center of the city. We can't live. Look, this is not a personal story I'm telling you. Why am I telling you this? This is transformation.
Yeah, takes time.
It takes time. And 40 years from now or 30 years from now, where will this locality be? How will it be? Is something I cannot imagine. Right? So transformation takes time. Oh, within the 5 years which I've come from, say, after retirement to this place, within the 5 years, like I've had a metro line running one side of my house, 200 meters away. Okay. Now, other day, someone comes and says, I want another, we are making survey for another metro line from another side of my house. Can you imagine? And this is happening all over. I went to Kanpur IIT, I find a metro going. You go to Lucknow, there's a metro going. You go to Bangalore, there's some metro being constructed. You go to Bombay, there are many more metros being constructed. You go to Bombay today, right? I almost missed a flight the other day because I was stuck in traffic. उससे पूछा भाई क्यों है सब मेट्रो चल रहा है इधर मेट्रो चल नहीं रहा मेट्रो का काम चल रहा है
Mm.
सो दिस ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन इज हैपनिंग पीपल आर अवेयर other day in Area India I heard the Karnataka chief minister speak. Of course the defense minister spoke, but I was more interested in what the Karnataka chief minister spoke and how he is putting a thrust on many things which we are talking of.
In the highways and stuff like that, clearly.
Yeah, see, we must understand our politicians are not fools. They might appear to be so, but they're sharp guys. Okay.
I'll disagree. Some of them are, but that's okay, sir.
Okay. But right, at least
Try to not.
the top level guys are sharp. Okay. They're very sharp and they understand what is happening. And
Okay.
I've dealt with them and I've seen them. Um, if you take that political color out of them, the guy who behind that facade is okay. Yeah. Next.
Sir, is it impossible for China to protect their highways, oil, gas, pumping stations, and railway from sabotage from specialized
No,
forces?
no, it's not. It's not. They are vulnerable. It's only that that vulnerability has not been exposed. One day someone will expose it, and after that they'll have a good time if they don't change. If the CCP doesn't change, that's the next thing in the
Sir,
horizon.
don't let out the secret.
Hey,
You both have
see,
pet
this
Chinese
no,
following
no, we
us.
don't have. We look all these things. You don't need specialized forces, all that. It'll happen from within. Again, history tells you something about China. I'll do this separately on because there's something which I can't converse also. I have to show slides and all that. History tells you that after every 100 200 years, the regime changes, the empires change in China. There's a cadence to it. I'll show it out. I'll have to dig out some of my old stuff. I'll put it on Beacon Everyday China.
1911 is the biggest example, sir.
Then in 1911 was their Boxer Revolution. वो छोड़ो.
Yeah.
I'm going back say 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Right? There are
That's
issues. So uh, when eruptions happen in China, a lot of people get killed and indiscriminately killed,
yeah.
and power changes take place. So we'll talk of it separately.
Nasty
So yeah,
part in this take
yeah,
place.
they are right. Okay,
We'll take about 10 minutes extra to finish what we have, sir. So why not? Why the world is not saying China wants to colonize the world? Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Africa would be great examples. What happens if the local population starts revolting across the world?
look, why, Harish? Point is this: why should you talk of China, what it is doing, not doing? Why should we tell that it is colonizing? We know everyone knows it is colonizing the world. After all, that what's that Belt and Road affair was only that. You remember one thing which I kept yesterday again. Yesterday, day before, I spoke of this in the Belt and Road thing in Peek into Everyday China. I spoke. If you see that, uh, a flag follows the trade.
Hmm.
Okay, colonization, first comes in the form of trade and then follows the
The flag.
colonization happens. So it's okay. This is known to everyone. Britain did it. You Frenchies did it. Germans did it. Incidentally, Germans also were colonizers. The Dutch did it. The Dutch were some of the biggest colonizers. The
Spanish,
Portuguese
Americans.
did it. The Spanish did it. Everyone did it. So these chaps are also doing it. So don't think that colonization is a bad thing that only others can do and China can't do. They will do it. We are not interested in it. We are not this thing because we don't believe in that because we have suffered because of colonization. So we decolonize. Okay. Again, uh, my request to you people is this: if you are watching this show, you are getting analysis. You want facts? Please go to that new Gunner Shot channel which I opened. Okay. And because there I put bare facts without too much analysis. Here I spend time and take people into radials. You'll not understand. I mean, then only then the discourse between me, you, and Adi and all of you will be better. You have to have a fundamentally a better knowledge about China for me to take you to the next level. Yeah,
What should we do as common citizens to counter the Chinese threat?
learn Chinese more, not Chinese language. Learn about China more,
About China, please. Thank you, sir.
please. Read about China. Look, it's not going to happen overnight. I first started reading about China very seriously um, way back in 1991. It's been 30 years of reading China that today I can speak about China very confidently about in front of people. And it's taken me all those tenures where I've been to Karakoram Pass and Kibitu and most of the passes in between which define the LAC for me to be very clear what am I talking in the Sino-Indian context. I've been a battery commander, I've been a brigade commander, I've been a CO, I've been a principal staff officer in most of these places. I know the area. It's been 30 years of constant thing. Now today, I since I have that background, today I read a lot of material literature. I pick what I have to read and I can do that. But it'll take you time. But somewhere you have to start.
China is a bit difficult to understand, but you have to start
You
somewhere.
you have to start somewhere, right? And then look, believe you me, the Chinese are not as opaque as we think they are.
It's stupid, actually. They talk about every damn
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So why can't India open something which is opposite to Confucius Institute? If I may, before you do so, if sorry,
Bolo,
have
bolo,
you heard
bolo.
of the ISKCON, which is one of the
Yeah,
biggest religious groupings that happen in Beijing?
ऐसी बात नहीं है कि वही बात कर रहा हूँ हर्ष. We are not exactly doing nothing.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. The second part of this, the adjunct to this is you don't need the government to do everything.
Hmm.
ISKCON is not a government organization, but you still have your culture, the power of your culture, your ethnicity, your traditional knowledge is very deep. Okay, again, I'll take you back. I'll take you back to the yesterday's peek into everyday China, where I spoke of India charging. I read a very interesting article. It says that uh, India has started making mark in fashion shows and all in Paris show and all that. For all these years, for the past 50 years, our designs or fabrics X, Y, Z have been going there. The Westerners were using them. It's now that our people are making it, making a mark there. So the originality of India and the vibrancy of India will assert itself. किसी कोई चाइनीज वाला जाके वहां दिखा नहीं रहा है ना. अगर दिखा रहा है तो दिखा रहा होगा, वो सीसीपी का होगा दिखाना, अपना नहीं है ना. I don't know these chaps who are the good guys or bad guys or the famous chaps in this fashion
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Like, but the fundamental thing is uh, again, like I said, uh, please see those videos because that will give you fundamental knowledge about a subject in China. And it's about it's. I have not kept it long. Half an hour, 30, 35 minutes is what I. Before after that, I know you lose the thing without interaction. It's useless to see my face for more than 30 minutes. It, so yeah,
Adi, you nailed it. India is punching far below its weight.
probably yeah, there's no doubt.
Uh,
Yep.
is PLA working or operating from Gwadar in Pakistan? Gwadar, where?
Yeah, they would be. They would be.
The
There's
same
no
port
doubt
which has
there.
no lights, sir?
No, well, but okay.
Can you imagine the strength of the Chinese construction that, you know? Okay, this is an interesting question, and I kind of keep pondering about this. Do you think in future India will have a reverse brain drain, a curse of 70 years?
I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I see something else happening, oh, which I have discussed with people. Uh, you know, some of the best and brightest of our people have gone abroad. Uh, they've risen. They've risen in Microsoft. They've risen in Google. They've risen in Pepsi. They've risen in so
YouTube,
many others. YouTube, uh, Twitter. They've risen. They've risen to be presidents. They've been prime
yeah,
ministers, vice presidents, all over.
CEOs.
Okay. What you call today brain drain is going to come back to you as power drain. Think of it.
As,
Power
as,
drain. A power drain back. The rivers will be power drain from there.
hmm,
You're acquiring power. Tomorrow, if there's a say there's a prime minister of a particular country who's of Indian origin, he will naturally be more interested in his country because where he's the prime minister, he's answerable to electorate, everything. But if you ask him to choose between India and China, where will he choose?
yeah.
Right? If he has to do business, he'll find it easier to do with the Indians. Okay? And he will give opportunity. And it is happening. Why are people looking towards India? It's that you're sending what should I say brains out in a drain and getting power back.
So there was a,
Those guys are facilitating your thing going.
so there's this
Okay?
joke, sir, which
Uh,
talked about, so this lady was cooking and stuff like that. So this guy walks up to her and she says, and she's an American Indian woman. So this American chap walks up to her and says, Chinese are sending spy balloons on our country and this and that and all that. She's like, Chinese are old school. They don't
mm,
understand how to do things. Do it like us, na. Send all
uh,
your CEOs
uh,
like we've done. We control everything.
the,
Simple as that.
see, the
It makes a lot
point.
of sense, actually.
The point is that the kind of power you're going to wield in countries as we go along is stupendous.
Phenomenal, yes.
I don't see Chinese doing that in any other country. Have you? Let me ask you this counter question. Have you heard of any Chinese uh, expat
CEO, yeah, no, no, no.
who's been a great CEO of a multinational or a prime minister of a country? You have Leo Varadkar in Ireland. You have someone else in Singapore, someone else in Maldives, someone else in USA. Do you are having presidential hopefuls in USA, Nikki Haley on one side and Kamala Harris on the other side. So you have to think differently. Yeah,
Last two questions, sir. One, thank you, sir, for your super chat. General, how can NRIs help in India's growth?
you just grow there. Just grow there.
And talk about India.
That they don't have to talk. You don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything. Just grow. I am of a different opinion. Look, my son is there. Okay, my son and daughter-in-law are there. They tell me, Dad, what are you doing? Wasting your time on a YouTube. Okay, it's time for you to hang up. I said, look, you go, enjoy yourself, be a NRI, you grow. As you grow there, the power comes back to India. It's called a power shift. Okay, I you have to think differently if India has to grow.
True.
We also have to understand. Look, I'll give you another demographic view. India doesn't have the capacity to absorb its talent, and talent is something you can't hold like a balloon.
Yeah.
It has to grow.
Otherwise, it's wasted.
It's wasted. So, unless the best amongst us or some of the best amongst us grow out, you don't make space for others to grow. If all the best guys in the or in India are sitting on top in India only, what is going to happen at the bottom? They can't go anywhere, no? You
True.
have to understand this demographic pattern, right? So I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
And the last question, sir, I'm going to take. Of course, there are lots more, but we've already crossed our standard time. But ask General sir, how important is it to know Chinese history before to get to know about what Chinese people do today?
Very important. I'm going to start this again. Like I told you, I'm going to devote one or two sessions in the peak of everyday China on history. Because I find that people don't understand it, so as a result of which, what I speak doesn't go across. I put a structured presentation about their history and put things across, so that you understand how it is. You see, I mean, let me give you a small idea. The Chinese history and the Chinese culture is a very ordered culture.
Yeah,
It's a monochromatic culture. I'm
it's always
using
been
the
like that.
word.
Yes.
I'm talking of color, monochromatic. Okay, it's monological. One Han. Unlike India, which is every second street, everything changes. As a result, the knowledge in India is not codified. It is here, right? It is there in your deep rooted in your culture, in your behavior and everything.
Hmm.
Whereas in China, it's all codified. It's in written form, and
This
the
or
Chinese
this.
are very good at holding records.
Hmm. Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
trace lineages in China, which we can't. We have to do it in different methods. We'll not get into that. But the Chinese society is a very ordered society, and that ordered society is what is helping the Communist Party survive. Also, okay. I mean, that's part of that system. So unless you understand the dynamics of that society, you can't handle it. Incidentally, the Chinese Communist Party is no different from any imperial system which existed in China. If you read the both, it's almost the same. And again, okay, like I'll not. We are way past the time, so I will talk of many of these things in that peek into everyday China, and maybe I'll make it live so that we can talk of it more. Okay, chalo.
So interesting. I mean, the last 10 seconds that I would like to say is that the cultural values of both the countries are, of course, going to be at par, and whoever's superior is win, and we know we are. So I'm just being a little arrogant in that
Yeah.
particular aspect. But sir,
No, no, there's
thanks
not.
so much. Uh, I'm an Indian. I like my culture. I don't like theirs.
Yeah.
That's it. That's fine. I learn from them, but I don't want to follow them. That's
Right.
just about it. So thanks so much. This has been a wonderful episode. I think this was long term coming. I think we've done these kind of episodes once in about 1.5 days, sort of a thing, wherein we are talking about Indian self confidence and stuff like that. And these are, I won't call them feel good videos, but a little beyond that, where you're trying to also build a base for that feeling
Yeah.
inside that you have. So that's very important for us. Thanks guys for joining me. Before I sign off, please do like this video, subscribe to the channel. Lots of new people. I just had somebody from Sri Lanka join the WhatsApp group, so thank you so much for
Mhm.
following this thing. I have some people from Nepal that recently joined me in the group. If you guys want to join, the link is right at the description for Telegram and WhatsApp. So,
Yeah. One point again, you chaps continue with Adi. You're going to get analysis here. Start off on peek onto everyday China where you get facts. Okay. And you'll get something different there. The sum of that and what you see there and what you see here is what you learn about China holistically. Incidentally, I'm going live with the military technology series from tonight onwards, 8 o'clock. So those of you who want to join, join. And we're going to talk of space. Yeah,
and if you can, please do support the depth of effort.
yeah,
There's a
you
QR
must.
code right here, or you can send us super stickers or super chats. I'll be back at 9:45 with General Syed Atta Hasnain, who will be talking to us about whether the Pakistani army can save Pakistan.
I'm not talking about. Laughing at the Pakistan army, not Atta Hasnain,
No,
who's
but
who was my boss. Huh? At one
that's
point
an
of time, he was
interesting
my boss.
question,
He's a
sir.
good
It's an
man.
interesting question because that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of us
No, no, he's a
are
great
asking.
guy. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great man. He was my boss. I have full respect for him. Discuss these days, someone talks to me about Pakistanis, yeah, and all that. It's a really joke. Uh, before I sign off, I must tell you. Sorry, I'm extending because it's too humorous. I've written an article called "The Cake Eaters of Pakistan Spring." Read it. Okay. In fact, I would suggest you people read it before you watch the show at 9:45. It gives you a different picture of Pakistan. And the
yeah,
question is, with the seriousness of that article in this is a Pakistani spring coming like an Arabic spring? Read that article, then you'll understand what I'm talking. It's
that's
a
what I'm.
humorous article and everything. Yeah.
That's what I'm asking this evening. That whether the all powerful in the Pakistan will be able to save Pakistan finally. Till then, guys, thank you so much and Jai Hind.